Good evening, dear students. Hope you have gone through the first set of lecture and gone through the slides shared. I haven't heard back or I haven't got any questions from your end. So I assume more or less you're clear with the concept. So I'll go ahead with the second lecture. So today we'll be talking about people who are there in a commodity exchange. We spoke about commodity exchange, which is a huge organization. So, who are the people who are involved in a commodity exchange? Buyers and sellers, we anyway know, but there are others also who govern the whole operation of an exchange. So, we'll learn about that. The other thing we are going to learn is also about the different types of trade that happens within a commodity exchange. Different types of trade we discussed little bit about that also. One is like the futures trade. We also spoke about spot trading, so we'll come to that as well. So moving on to slide 2 of this presentation, we will first understand a few key terms, and please repeat after me. These may be very new for you. So it is called hedging, speculation, and arbitraging. Hedging, speculation, and arbitraging. We'll first understand these three terms. Only the terms are difficult, but the meaning is very simple. But these technical terms are used for any financial market subject. They use these technical terms. Okay, hedging. I'll directly jump into the example. Supposing an airline company thinks that in the future the price of fuel is going to go up. Okay, so what happens if the prices actually go up? Naturally the ticket costs are going to go up. It is not going to be competitive anymore. So thinking about all that, the airline company might enter into a futures contract. That is to say, today they might enter into a contract saying that in the future they will buy so much quantity of oil at a certain price. Okay. So what is the advantage they get? The advantage they get is whatever risk is involved in price rise, they are offsetting that. So hedging means you are reducing the risk or completely eliminating the risk because of price fluctuation. So hedging is getting away with the risks involved in price fluctuation. Okay, simple. So next is speculation. You might have heard about this term while studying about stock markets. So a normal investor, you or me or any other citizen of the country, he can invest in a stock market. So why does he invest? He invests to make money. So similarly, people can also invest in commodity market purely for the purpose of making money. They might not be interested in buying gold, they might not be interested in buying cattle or whatever. I mean, they are not interested in the commodity, but they are investing money because they want to make profit because of the price fluctuations. For example, sorry, for example, I might buy gold today for rupees 3000, and tomorrow I see that the gold prices have gone up. I mean, it is 6000, so I might sell it off. So I might buy not gold but the physical contract for gold today and sell it off tomorrow once the price goes up. So by this I am making profit. So this is an example of speculation. And the third term, arbitraging. In this, what happens is that the investors, they simultaneously operate in multiple exchanges. If we take the example of stock markets, a person A might operate in BSE as well as NSE. So what he will do is he will make purchases in BSE and he will sell those items in NSE. I mean, that is quite possible. So this is in commodities market. If a person operates in multiple exchanges, It is quite possible that he might buy gold or buy wheat at a low rate in one exchange and sell it off in some other exchange where the rates for wheat is much higher, right? So hedging means to reduce risk. Speculation is purely an activity to make profit. Arbitraging is also like speculation, but people who get into this activity operate in multiple exchanges and make profits. Okay? Okay. Now, having understood this, let us understand all the people who are there within a commodity exchange. So, obviously, as we discussed just now, there are hedgers. Who are hedgers? People who want to reduce risk. So, who are they typically? The farmers who don't know what is going to happen to the crop prices sometime in the future. Onion farmers, for example, they don't know how the prices are going to fluctuate. The buyers, sellers, importers, the processors. You know who are the processors? I'll give you an example. There are various car assembly units. Uh, so what they typically do, these car manufacturing companies, they will buy these parts from different companies and they will assemble it, right? Supposing these parts become very expensive in the future, then what will happen? The prices of the end product will also go up. So they cannot take a chance, right? So what they will do is they will also hedge. I mean, this is just an example. So processors also who are intermediaries who are involved in between process, they also need to ensure the prices of the raw materials and other items don't go up. Okay. Hedgers is the first category of market participant. Then we have speculators, people who purely invest. Then arbitrators. So these are all investors. Besides this, there are other people who are involved in an exchange. So the main thing is the management of the exchange itself. So while people transact within an exchange, somebody has to do the policing, somebody has to ensure that the activities are happening smoothly. So the management of the exchange, it consists of the board of directors. There is a CEO as well. And the board of directors will consist of members, representatives from the government, and also few members who are nominated by the public. So board of directors will have people from the government and also other members who are part of the exchange, and they are nominated by the other members. Okay. We also spoke about clearing house. So there is a clearing house as well within an exchange. And there are other members like the banks which support the activities within an exchange. There are the brokers who are called the trading members. So these are this is how we should imagine all the people who are there within a commodity exchange. Hope this is clear. I've just given a small note on the kind of members, different categories of members that we have within a commodity exchange. You can just go through them. So ordinary members are people like you, me, the investors. Then we have trading members who are the brokers. Then we have the various banks, so which do trading, which also help in clearing. So we'll talk about clearing process a little later. Then we have institutional members. Many a times, the clearing houses, the banks, and so on. Now, having understood the market participants, let us understand the types of trade, broadly the types of trade that takes place in a commodity market. I'm not talking about a commodity exchange specifically. This is asked as a question, so I'm talking about what happens in a commodity market. We've already discussed this. One is there can be a physical trading or spot trading that can happen for commodities. So spot trading is where immediately settlement happens. So usually transactions in a spot trading need to be closed within 11 days. Okay, and there might not be any formal contract for spot trading or physical trading. The idea here is that the buyer needs the physical delivery of goods on an immediate basis. Okay, the other categories that we spoke about, that is futures trading. This is also called derivatives trading. So I'm introducing this term. This is called derivatives trading. That means it is a trading arrangement where people derive value from an underlying asset. Okay. Now to give you an example, I already told you in a commodity exchange, people make money and they enter into a contract that is to be executed in the future. Okay, so there is a contract document, and finally in some future date only that is going to end, right? So between the timeline of entering into a contract and executing the contract, they can use this document and transfer this or sell this document to other people who are interested. Okay, so by this they make money. So today, if the contract document specifies some value for wheat, and tomorrow if it goes up, then the seller is very happy. Then the buyer is very happy to sell it to somebody who's willing to purchase, and he makes money because of the difference. Okay. Here I have given an example. Wheat can be an asset for which a buyer or a seller enter into a futures contract. So the contract document in turn can be sold to others before its expiration, and by this they make money. So the underlying asset is wheat here, and the value derived is the profit. So when such an arrangement is there, it is called derivatives, trading in derivatives. Okay. Of course, at the end of the contract, there is a physical exchange of commodities that does happen, but that is much later. Now, that is, broad classification is physical or spot trading and derivatives trading. Now coming to the next slide, which talks about different types of trade in a commodities market. So it is categorized as follows: spot or physical market, so which is outside of the exchange, which happens just by exchanging the commodity and paying cash. Then there is something called the forwards contract or forwards market. So this is like futures contract only. So there's a formal contract that is entered into, which is to be executed at some point in the future. But this doesn't happen within the purview of an exchange. So there is no monitoring done by an exchange. So this is like, and the contract can be customized between the buyer and the seller. Then we have the futures market. So in the futures contract or futures market, so here commodities are bought or sold by entering into a contract to settle transaction in a future date, but this happens within the purview of a commodity exchange. So the rules and regulation and all these standardizations that are supposed to be implemented is done in this case. Okay. And finally, we have something called the options contract or options trading. So options, this is again a new term. Options is a kind of futures contract only. So options is a kind of futures contract, but it is little more flexible. In the sense, there are two types of options. One is call option. So how this is flexible is, in a call option, the buyer has an option to buy, but he is not obligated to make the purchase. In the sense, I gave an example yesterday that 1 month later, supposing I enter into an option contract with the seller for rice, stating that I will be buying rice at 50 rupees 1 month later. But 1 month later, I see that the price for rice is falling. So it is 48 rupees, 45 rupees. So at that time, what I do? I am seeing the continuous trend that the price for rice is falling. So what I do? I cancel the contract with the seller. So that option is available. So I have a right to buy at that rate, but I'm not obligated. I needn't necessarily buy at rupees 50. I have an option to cancel the contract at any point before the end of contract date. Similarly, there is something called a put option where the advantage is for the seller. So supposing a seller says he is okay to sell wheat at the rate of 50 rupees a kilo 6 months later, and supposing he finds that the rate of wheat is going up and up, then what he decides, he can decide to call off the contract and sell the wheat at market rate and make more profit. So options are more flexible form of derivatives or futures contract. So having said that, generally there is a question asked regarding the difference between forwards and futures. So I've just given you some points. Please go through that. As I already told you, forwards and futures are almost the same. They are contracts, but in case of forwards, it is more or less outside of an exchange. It is not informal, it is outside of an exchange. Futures is within the purview of an exchange. So futures is more standardized, forwards is not standardized. And of course, forwards there is no regulation, so obviously chances of getting cheated or whatever is much higher there. In case of futures, it is not the case. And you can also go through some of the points I've given. So with this, I end today's session. If you have any questions, please let me know, and kindly go through the PDFs. And tomorrow or the next lecture will be on the entire process, end-to-end process of how a commodity transaction takes place in an exchange. Thank you so much.